Welcome to the Biz Gone Social podcast. We help entrepreneurs navigate how to get known, get customers, and get the edge over their competition. Here is your host, Lorraine Duncan.
So here we are on the Biz Gone Social podcast, and I'm so glad to be here. And my promise to you, as always, is I want to give you a little bit of verbal caffeine that's going to energize your social media marketing, your business, and help you stay social. Because after all, don't you want to be the business that everyone's talking about? I know I do. And I'm so stoked today to have a very special guest, Cliff Rubin. How are you?
Hi, Lorraine. Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So could you tell the audience out there a little bit about your business and what you do?
Sure. Well, I'm a website designer. I have my own firm that I've been running for about 10 years or so. 20 years. Been running it for a long time. I've been in this business, since the internet was relatively young. So I've seen a lot of changes and built a nice group of clients through all that time. And so I do design, development, hosting, all that kind of stuff that small and medium-sized businesses need for their websites.
Now, the name of your company is Jonas Web. Can you tell me a little bit about the name?
It's like one of those things. I'm also a musician, as I mentioned, and like musicians know this all the time. They come up with a band name just kind of because they need something. And then years later, they're stuck with this name that maybe they don't even really like. Not that I don't like it, but I just kind of needed a name. I didn't want to put my own name noticeably in the name. So I used my middle name, Jonas, which I never really use. And I thought, I'll make my mom happy and I'll use my middle name. So it was a spur of the moment thing 20 years ago. And, all of a sudden it was like, I can't change it now. So
now that's awesome. Sometimes people have like all these special reasons why, but that's a good reason too. And plus you make your mom happy. So that's awesome.
Yeah, there's not really much of a story behind it. That's kind of it.
Well, that's good though. Literally, there's, I don't know, if I Googled right now, website designer, there's probably thousands of them. What would you say separates you from other website designers?
Well, that's a good question. And I would have to say, just by being in this business a long time, one of the things that I do a lot of is taking over sites for, obviously a lot of what I do is building sites from scratch or fully redesigning a site. But what I also do, which I consider kind of like a subspecialty, is helping people out of really bad situations that they're in with web designers that are difficult to work with, don't get back to them. I mean, the kind of stories that I've heard in my years of what web designers are like to work with, maybe it's everybody, maybe it's not just web designers, but it seems to be very prominent in the web design world that people are very, very difficult to work with, no business skills, no people skills, and make the whole process kind of unpleasant. Not that they mean to, they just don't know how to do it any differently. So I would say, and it doesn't mean they're not good at what they do in terms of the work, but I think what separates the good ones from the bad ones is not only the skill and talent to do it, but also that you can work with people. Because in my estimation, it's really a personal service business. You're working with people in a close capacity, hopefully for a long time. So, I have great relationships with my clients. Some of my clients that I started with 20 years ago are still my clients. So I kind of pride myself on being easy to work with and, getting back to people quickly and being on top of things and not dropping the ball. And all those things happen all the time. So I'm proud of being able to help people out of bad situations with bad web designers.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's so many people out there that you said something really important. It's a very, when you're in the service business, it's a very relational skill that you have to have. And not everybody's born with that.
Exactly.
Some people are extremely very good with tech and very good with, designing things, or they're awesome artists, but they don't know how to relate to people. So
Yeah.
it's a very special skill to be able to do both. So kudos to you for that. There are a lot of people out there too that they own their own businesses, but they don't have a website. And why do you think that? I mean, I know the importance of having a website for me, why I need to have one. But why do you think that if you're in business for yourself, you should have a website?
Well, I think that some businesses need a website because it's a crucial part of what they do. So obviously that some businesses, if they're selling something or if they're booking appointments or have some sort of interaction with people, obviously you need that. But, I do a lot of sites for people who use it as a credibility piece. And I think that that's as important as anything else. The days of somebody just picking up the phone and calling you, and that's the first contact they have, those days are long gone. So having a good website may not get you a client, but not having a good website could certainly lose you a client, or a customer. So somebody's going to look you up. If I was looking you up, Lorraine, for example, if I wanted to hire you to help me and you didn't have a website, I would probably find the people who do what you do that do have a website and just have a better feeling about them. So at the very least, even if, I have some clients who are, I don't know, I have a couple of therapists, people who would have no one's Googling a therapist and just finding one like as an impulse purchase. But if that therapist gets recommended to somebody, that potential client is going to be looking them up online, and you don't want to not have a website because that's going to just send a bad message. So I think it's very rare to find a business that actually has no need for a website in any possible way. At the very least, the credibility it gives you and the message that it sends for most businesses would be pretty crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. There are people out there too that, so when it comes to websites, so it's one thing to build one and design one and have the right copy and everything, but like how would you, like, the next steps, meaning after you've done all this for them and they say, well, how do I get my website noticed? What would you say to them?
Well, it depends on the business. If it's a business that has a little bit of a budget to do some serious SEO, or at least put some efforts into that, I have people that I work with in that area. Not everybody has the need for that or the budget for it, certainly, but social media obviously is a big way to get your business out there. Obviously you're the expert in that, but I'm always recommending that to people, that if they have the ability to and the inclination to keep up with social media. Some people are just like, oh, I'll never do it, I don't want to do it. But if you can use that to your advantage, that's obviously a great next step in terms of building a list of people that know what you're doing and are interested in that you can reach easily. So I'm a big proponent in pushing people into doing social media if they don't already. If they do already, then I certainly want to include that in the website in a way that works for them. Sometimes it's just icons, sometimes it's actually having your tweets appear on the page, or your feed, or I've been doing that a lot more lately with Instagram, because a lot of people, because it looks so good. It's not just more text on your site, it's lots of images. So that's a way, having your Instagram feed appear right on your website, assuming that you have an Instagram that you keep up with, that's a great way to connect people, both ways, from the site to social media and back. And it adds a lot of visual interest to your site. So yeah, social media and SEO are the things that you would do. And a lot of sites, it depends on what the business is, but a lot of sites don't really need a ton of SEO. If like I mentioned to you, I do a lot of sites for authors. You don't need somebody to find you if they're searching for the word author, which is so vague. If you're an author, hopefully at some point people will know you by name, even if it's a small group of people. So, SEO for that sort of thing doesn't necessarily get you much. And when I say SEO, I mean hiring somebody to handle it. In building the site, I'll build it with all the best practices in mind and in place. So you'll at least be on a good foot to start SEO wise if you decide to go in that direction.
Yeah, and I work with a lot of authors also, and I feel like it's really important that authors should have their own website, because it stands them out from the rest. And there's this one author I recently worked with. I just did a little project for them, and he's worked with some big names like Oprah and a few other people that, I mean, I can go on and on with the names. I just can't even think of another name right now, but all those talk show people, different news outlets he worked for. And it's interesting that the amount of, I guess, traffic he gets just because he has a website and because he is an author, which whereas if you have a business that you're just starting from scratch, you kind of have to work up to that, getting traffic to your website. Right. And so I actually highly recommend doing a little SEO and some social media if you don't have a lot of money to spend on SEO, and maybe even some, depending on because I know it's expensive for some people, but Google AdWords always does well for people. Do you, I have to ask this because you're the one that actually brought up social media, but what's your favorite social media platform?
Well, let's see. I mentioned I'm also a musician. So to me, Instagram is my favorite when it comes to that. I'm to be honest with you, I'm more involved with social media when it comes to that, because to me, that's more of a natural fit. I've had Facebook and Twitter for my own business, but I don't put a ton of work into it. And, that's on me. That's not, but I haven't really needed it. I haven't really pushed it all that much, but certainly for my musician side, that's a great way to put out music or show what you're up to. So I would say Instagram is the best for that. In terms of Facebook, my bands have a big size Facebook list, but you got to really boost your posts and spend money to get it seen. So that's less practical than Instagram. Instagram, you can boost there too, but it seems like you get a lot more attention without having to do that on Instagram. So I would be more inclined to put time and money for myself into Instagram. For some businesses, maybe Twitter is better, but certainly for a musician, Instagram is a really good one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And just an FYI, a lot of people, when they have bands and stuff, they'll open up a Facebook business page. My recommendation for that is to have a private group page, because then you're collecting your fans, and every time you don't have to advertise, because every time you post on your group page, it notifies all your fans. And that worked. I actually did a test with this with my husband's band, and literally he got more people out to the concerts by having this private group than having the Facebook business page. So now we just use the Facebook group page.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Because trust me, Facebook's changing the algorithm again, and they're changing they just made a whole bunch of changes to groups too. So mine all didn't come. I manage a lot of groups, but none of the people I think I manage over like 30 groups right now. They're not my own. I only have one group. But the bottom line is that they're all changing, and none of them are doing the changes that I need to happen, so I can test them out.
Right.
And I'll be by the way, my clients will get all the changes first before I get them, which is so annoying. But I'm going to.
That's a great suggestion. I had not even really thought about that. That's an excellent way to go.
Yeah. So sure. I would start it, and all those people that are on your page, because I know you said you have a large. Try to make a little sign. Hey, everybody, I'm switching gears here a little bit, making a nicer page where we can interact and be more of a community. And then basically what you'll do is you'll just gather all those people, and then moving forward at any gig you have, you invite them to that page, and you have your social media person, or if it's you go on later and you accept all those people and welcome. My husband's band, for instance, is Blame It on the Dog. And what we do is I have a little dog. Can we hear you? And I have, I do all this thing with this dog, and we have a lot of fun with it. So if you form a community, it's kind of like that whole thing when they go through your funnel, they hear you play, they like you, they come back and hear you play again. Then all of a sudden they become raving fans and they want more of you. So what a better way to get more of you out there is having a community that's private and it's only for your group's community and
right.
just get to know each other, and it's safe. It's a safe environment, and only people who are going to join it who, you're not going to get weirdos on it. That's why you still have to like monitor it.
Sure.
Because every once in a while, like there'll be some crazy person that will try to put their music on our site. Of course I just like kind of delete.
Yeah.
But
no, that's great. That's a great idea for sure.
Good. I'm going to switch gears, and because we only have a few more minutes left, and basically I ask everybody this. You have your own business. You've been a business owner, I think you said for over 20 years. And with being a business owner, what would you say you like the most about being a business owner?
Well, I love being my own boss. I love making my own hours and working the hours that I want to work. And, I'm still busy. Most of the time I'm working more or less normal hours, but I don't have to. I can go on vacation more because I can work from wherever I am. So nobody needs to know where I am if I'm in my office or wherever they think I work. I do work at home, and I always have, even pre-COVID. So now everybody else is finding out what a pleasure that is. For some people it's not a good fit, but if you like it, it's really a great fit. So I love being able to work at home, and I love being my own boss. And that was my dream. I always wanted to be my own boss. So, that was kind of my plan, and I've done it. So I'm very happy with that. Now, it's not right for everybody because some people need to know exactly how much money comes in every month and that sort of thing. And obviously when you're your own boss and running your own business, it can change from month to month, but once you've been doing it long enough, you don't start to freak out if you have a quieter month, because you just know that these things flow that way, and the next month will make up for it. So yeah, there are many things I love about having my own business: the independence and the the flexibility, for sure. And those are great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we always hear the good stuff about going into business for ourselves, and I always like to ask this because I have a lot of people that are on the line that are thinking of starting their own business. And so the thing is there's challenges too to owning your own business. What is one challenge that you faced recently that you've overcome and you're on the other side of it now, that if you feel like you want to share, or maybe just share part of it, or however it is, as long as it's not too long? Because we all face challenges as business owners. What would you say your biggest challenge is?
Well, I think the biggest challenge for all business owners is to do the things they do for everybody else for themselves. So it would be like if you were so busy doing social media for other people that you never did your own because it just fell by the wayside. So you can't just do it for everybody else. Like, I'm a web designer, so I can't have a site that I don't really have time to keep redesigning my own site, but I need to make time to make sure it stays current and looks good, because that's also part of my portfolio, obviously, as would be, your own social media. So, you have to make sure that you're keeping up with the thing that you do for others for yourself. And that's not a new challenge. That's a challenge that people that work for themselves always have to handle, but you got to be able to prioritize that, even though it seems less important than the people that are paying you. In some ways it's as, if not more important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like the shoemaker's kids not having any shoes,
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
And lastly, if there was one piece of advice that you can give someone just starting out, what would that be?
That's a tough one, because I've had people ask me, like, what do you attribute being able to do this for so long? And I can't just say be nice to people, because, it's not always it's not always good. It's not easy for everybody to be, like we were saying before, really great to work with and have good friendly relationships with your clients. But if you can do that, And I would also say it's not always about money. Like sometimes you want to make relationships with people. So, don't just nickel and dime people, because that they'll resent. But if you say, look, I also did this for you because I thought it was a good idea, or you asked for it, it's a little bit outside of the scope, but it's no big deal. I'm not going to charge you for it. Those things go a long way in building relationships. You don't have to nickel and dime everybody because you think that's just what you're supposed to do. So I would say be nice to people, be generous, don't be stingy with your time and your work, and those kind of things will come back and benefit you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And they do benefit you many times. And I still do it to this day. There's some things that I know how to do and I can do, but I usually don't, it's not part of my social media package. But you got a person that goes, I have this graphic, I want to put it in my newsletter. I have no idea how to resize it. And literally it doesn't take me long to do it. I resize it for them and send it back. And they just like, the other day I did another thing. They just wanted the little play button on their graphic. I put a play button on it and they're like, you're the best ever.
Yeah.
But just hearing that compliment, it also makes you a reason to go to work every day, because not only are you helping people with their problems or their solutions to what they need, but you're also going beyond the distance for someone, which goes a long way.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you so much for coming out and being a guest on my podcast. And I'm sure there are people out there that have been thinking of having a website. So if they needed to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Well, the best way is to just look up my own website, which is jonasweb.net, JONASWEB.net. And I've got lots of samples of a variety of different types of businesses that I've worked with, different site samples, and my email's there, my phone's there, a contact form is there. So there's different ways you can reach out to me. That would be the best way to reach out to me, and you get to see some of my work in the process. So I would recommend you take a look at jonasweb.net if you're interested.
That's awesome. And thank you again for being a guest. And everyone out there, until next week, I'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Biz Gone Social podcast. Find us on Instagram at BizGoneSocial for extra tips. Check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, stay social.